Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I am Millie Cvjetkovic. I am an online physique coach and a physique competitor, coming to you with a Q&A, a well-awaited Q&A regarding my tummy tuck and breast augmentation or mummy makeover surgery that I had 3 weeks ago now. So it's thereabouts 3 weeks, nearing 4 weeks post-surgery, and I think it's the perfect time to do the first kind of Q&A, which isn't necessarily about the recovery process in depth. It's more so about like how I decided on lots of different things in the lead up to the surgery and how the initial process went. So I'm gonna probably do a Q&A at a later date as well. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, click below and subscribe, because you will probably want to hear the next Q&A where it goes over the whole recovery process. But even so, I've got a lot of questions. There have been loads and loads and loads of questions asked. So I'm super excited to dive straight into this one. If you don't already follow me, by the way, on Instagram as well, please make sure that you do Millie_teamcbm. It just means that when I put these question boxes up, you will see them. But as well as that, if you do have any questions, then please drop them in the comments below for me. So let's get into things. First question that we have is, I think the first question is a really, really helpful one. So how did I do my research regarding the surgeries? So a lot of what I did was basically what I'm doing now. I watched YouTube vlogs, I watched people's experiences, people's journeys, and that's what I did largely, but I did not find anyone who was kind of under the same circumstances as me, but one person that I know, who is my friend Chris Broomhead. You can search his content as well. He's a fellow bodybuilder or a physique competitor who basically wasn't able to lose his loose skin, and it was impacting his confidence overall and also his competing, his bodybuilding shows, and that's the same for me. So I did a lot of research. I didn't find exactly what I was looking for, which is why I'm documenting my journey, particularly when it comes to someone who is an athlete and a physique competitor. But largely, aside from kind of going into the details of YouTube videos and watching those, I did also go onto the Real Self website. The Real Self website is awesome. It's like an online forum which educates you on the different types of cosmetic surgeries that there are available. And then also it's really helpful because it talks about different surgeons, where they're located in the world. You basically review them almost like a TripAdvisor. And a lot of people will share and document their journeys on these forums. So that was like super helpful from my perspective to read about people's journeys. And then of course, just to actually find out about the process, like reading articles online was very, very helpful. Next question is, what's the difference between below or above the muscle when it comes to breast augmentation, and can it affect bodybuilding? So the difference is, when it comes to going over the muscle, your pectoral muscle, the pec major, basically is kept completely intact. It's not touched, and the implant is just placed underneath your breast tissue. There's like an incision underneath the boob, and then they just place into a pocket the implant, which is basically, let's say your pec muscle is here, they'll place the implant here. However, when it comes to going under the muscle, what they do is they basically slice your pec in half, in the nicest way to put it, and they create a pocket within the pec muscle. So if this is your pec, they'll basically slice it and create a pocket, and then the implant goes within this pocket, okay? So when it comes to athletes and weightlifters, you're gonna use your pecs a lot. You're gonna be doing lots of pressing, you know, shoulder press, chest press. You're gonna be training and pulling and pushing a lot. So to have your pec muscle compromised means a longer recovery, and it means that you might have to avoid training that pec muscle in the future, depending on the integrity of that muscle. Because the most common way that you can displace implants, or that you have something go wrong with your implants to the point where you need revision surgery, is if you have disturbed that muscle when your implant has been settling and the implant has displaced early on. So you've got to think, if your pec has been basically cut in half or wounded, it needs a lot of time to recover and regain strength. So yes, of course, it can impact bodybuilding and weight training. I'm pretty sure that there's a much, much longer recovery time, perhaps 6 months plus, to be able to get back to doing certain pressing movements when it comes to going under the muscle. But if you go over the muscle, it's a much, much faster recovery, and also painful recovery, because you've had less of your body disturbed, if that makes sense. As to why the difference is between why would you go under the muscle versus why would you go over the muscle, from all the research that I have done, a lot of people traditionally believed that going under the muscle made your breast implants look less fake or less like stuck on, or, you know, all of these kind of like taboo terms, but it's simply not the case. Under the muscle was created for those people who are very, very lean and where you might see the implant pressing on the skin. So they basically put the implant under the muscle just to add like a little bit more thickness, separating the implant and then what you could see from the surface of the skin. But if you're someone who isn't very, very, very lean, or other circumstances that surgeons might kind of deem worthy or necessary, this is me speaking from my research, then it's absolutely fine for the implant to go over the muscle. And I know lots of bodybuilders and weightlifters who have gone over the muscle and it does not look fake or stuck on at all. It just simply depends on obviously what size implant you go for and what type of implant that you go for. So I hope that helps. What CC did you go for? They look so good. What CC? Thank you guys, I really, really appreciate it. I went for 340 cc in each breast, which was basically something that was decided pretty much from the very, very start. So that was something that I didn't necessarily spend a lot of time mulling over, because ultimately CC just determines cubic centimeters, so the volume. And I basically said to my surgeon, this is kind of the look that I'm going for. He said, right, I think you need 340. We tried 340 and that was it. I was like, yep, this looks about right. And that was how we decided. So next question is, how long until I can go back to training do I think? So officially, you need at least 6 weeks of not doing strenuous activity for your breast implant to settle and to be in a position where they have healed. If you disturb them or you kind of like affect the integrity of the capsule, there is a capsule of scar tissue that forms around the implants within the body, because the body sees the implants as a foreign object, so it will form scar tissue around the implants. But if you affect that scar tissue forming, if you do something that's going to cause that pocket where your implant has been placed to be disturbed, or if you do something to affect your pec muscle, then that is basically going to, you know, really impact your implants, and you don't want to be responsible for that. You do not want your implants not to settle properly and for you to think, oh my goodness, like I went back to training too soon. So in all honesty, upper body, I'm not going to train it until I've got the full go ahead from being fully healed by the doctor. That could be 6 weeks, could be 8 weeks, could be longer. In regard to the tummy tuck, I don't really think it's going to impact my training too much. My scar is still a little bit sensitive, so certain movements, if I'm placing things on my hips, probably let's say like a glute drive machine might be a little bit, you know, sensitive to that. So what I'm probably going to do is within the next couple of weeks, so by week 4, go back into the gym with some very, very low intensity light cardio, some very, very low intensity machine based leg exercises, you know, adduction, maybe some leg extensions, some seated hamstring curls, something like that, but also some so light that it doesn't affect me basically having to use my upper body, or that I couldn't, for whatever reason, perhaps, you know, end up using my upper body to be picking heavy things up. So very, very carefully, we'll slowly start to get back, probably prematurely then would be advised, but the gym is my happy place and it keeps me in a really good spot. And I think as long as I know my body and I'm very, 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 very careful, then things should be absolutely fine. There's a question here that says, why did I decide on fat injections and not implants? I have no idea why someone may think that I've got fat injections, because if you look at my breast augmentation, I don't think it looks like it's been fat injections, and I don't even know whether that's possible, but they are implants, 340cc implants. So I didn't get any fat injected anywhere. I didn't get any lipo whatsoever. There was no lipo for my tummy tuck. There was no abs sewn back together, no muscle repair. It was literally just skin removed and then implants placed above the muscle. There is a question that says, did I get a breast lift and implant? No, I did not need a breast lift, but I did need implant that was big enough to fill the pocket of basically my breast tissue, which had sagged a little bit from the significant weight loss and weight gain. What is a lifespan of the implant, and do you have to have surgery again in the years? So with regard to the implants, most people generically will say implants last kind of like 10 to 15 years, depending on how you look after them. I've seen a lot of people kind of recounting that their implants have lasted them much longer. So, you know, 20 years plus. So there will have to be surgery again at some point. You know, I am 25 years old, and at some point the implants will need to be replaced. Maybe they'll need to be removed. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but in terms of like, is it a long enough lifespan if I look after myself and I don't do anything, you know, silly to affect the integrity of the implants, then yes, I think it's a pretty good decision. What was the downtime and worst part of the process? This is a really good question. So the downtime, I would say, like completely being reliant on someone else, was probably like the first 4 to 5 days. You know, I really couldn't carry much. I couldn't stand up straight. And I did have to get Nathan to do a lot for me, my partner, to help me out. So I would say completely off like work and not being able to do much, at least 4 to 5 days, probably longer if you go under the muscle for your breast implants, or even if you have muscle repair, I'd say probably even longer, like 7 to 10 days, possibly 14 days plus. Also, if you're not a healthy and fit person, you need to be before surgery. You need to make that happen. And if you need help with that, please hit us up for coaching. Link is below. So that is going to be something where I would say just that short period of time. But if we're talking about realistically, for me to be able to like reach for things and grab things and be able to start to carry things and be more so like back to my normal self as I was beforehand, I'd probably say, you know, about now. So like 3 to 4 weeks is going to be that process. The worst part of the process, that's a very tricky question. I think for me personally, I'm someone who's very independent and likes to do a lot of things myself, and I don't like to rely on people a lot, just because I don't know, I'm quite an independent person. So I had to get ready to accept the fact that I needed help and I was not going to be able to do anything for myself. Like, I had to become okay, and I did speak to my therapist beforehand to kind of prepare me mentally for the fact that I'm going to have to lie in bed for 3 to 4 days and move about a little bit, but have support moving about, have support going to the toilet, have support having my food made for me. And fortunately, I've got a really, really supportive partner, so it wasn't that much of an issue. But it's something where if you're not ready for that, you might end up being frustrated by it. And then of course, like for me, as much as, you know, it was necessary to have time away from work, and it is for everyone, I love my work. So that was also something else where it was kind of like having to take a step back just for a short period of time, allow myself to recover, and then kind of like find my groove again, if that makes sense. Can you stand up straight after the surgery? Absolutely not. I'm not too sure if you just got a breast augmentation alone. Probably still think you'd probably be quite hunched, in all honesty. But obviously I had the tummy tuck and the breast augmentation, and oh boy, no, I was like at a 45-degree angle. By day 5 to day 6, I could fully stand up straight. So yeah, brace yourself for walking around like a freaking grandma. Pain level the next day from 1 to 10, you know, I'm going to be completely honest and say I had amazing healthcare. I had, you know, great nurses, great doctors, good hospital, and they kept me on IV paracetamol and made me go home with like painkillers. So the pain was minimal, like literally minimal, aside from feeling like I had like really bad chest DOMs, or like a small animal or child like sat on my chest, and then a little bit of soreness. There was really no pain and discomfort, and I'm so glad to be able to say that genuinely, because it's an intense surgery, so not that much pain. I'd probably maybe give it like a 2 to a 3 out of 10 with good healthcare. How did the consultations go / how did you find the right surgeon? So very interesting question, and I kind of went against the grain in terms of what I believe is probably the best thing to do. So what I actually did was I researched, like I'm based in Dubai, I wanted to do the surgery in Dubai. I know a lot of people have you know, traveled for the surgery for more cost-effective options, such as, you know, countries like Turkey, or possibly just still doing it in the UK but kind of finding a finance option. In the US you can have finance options. It really depends on where you are in the world. But I am based in Dubai, where the medical world here is just all private, and you're probably going to pay a lot up front. So I had decided I want a good doctor, I want to stay in my home city, and I just want to be comfortable throughout this whole process. And I really think that the medical care in Dubai is phenomenal. So I really felt comfortable being here. So I researched online the doctors in Dubai. I went onto the Real Self website and also looked at the doctors in Dubai for those who did breast augmentations, mummy makeovers, tummy tuck surgeries. And I came across Dr. Mateo's website, and I really liked the quality of information on his website. I really liked the look of his social media, the look of his client transformations, all the work that he's done. And so I booked in for a consult. I immediately felt at such ease when I went and spoke to him, and he was very knowledgeable about everything that he spoke about. And immediately I was just like, okay, I know that this is going to be the right choice. And he showed me even more of his work, and I was super confident that he was going to be absolutely excellent at helping me with my surgery and doing the work for me. And then funnily enough, I even spoke to a good friend of mine, and I was asking her about her surgery, and she had actually also gone to Dr. Mateo, and her results were amazing. And that was just like, okay, I know that this is going to be my surgeon. So he was the first surgeon I went to. Now, it's not to say that I didn't look at other surgeons' work and do a lot of research, but I did feel very confident and set and have a good gut feeling with my initial choice, and the reviews were astounding, and the care throughout was fantastic through my consultations. So that's how I went about finding my surgeon. Again, I would recommend that you see different surgeons and that you do your research into them. But when you know, if that makes sense. How did you decide on what size implants to go for? I think a lot about getting mine done, but I have huge anxiety about being unhappy with the size. This is very, very common that a lot of people are nervous about what size implants to go for, because you know, it is something that's a big change to your body, and if it's not right, it's not right, and it's therefore very important. So this is one thing why I felt so at ease with Dr. Matteo and why I knew that he was the right surgeon for me. I'd read a lot on the different forums of people getting breast augmentations and feeling like they've gone too small, that they've gone too big, and also people panicking directly after the surgery, where it doesn't make sense to, because your breasts literally don't settle for months. You don't see the final result. In terms of how did I go for the size, I literally said to Dr. Matteo, I want to go bigger, but not too big. And then he was like, okay. He looked at my frame and he was like 340cc. And then he took out the chicken fillets and gave me the bra to put on where I insert them. And so I put it on to make it look like I had that size breast. I looked in the mirror and I was like, it's perfect. I just knew, like, this is the size that I want. This is the profile that I want. And it doesn't look disproportionate. It doesn't make me feel like I'm going to be, you know, toppling over because I'm so chest heavy. It wasn't going to interfere too much with my training. Like, I knew straight away. And then also went through a process where I lost 25 pounds from my initial consultation in the lead up for the surgery. And I said, I want to go see Dr. Matteo again just to make sure that it is the right size. I made sure again, after, because obviously with having loss in body fat, I had loss in body fat from my breasts. So they were smaller than initially when I had my first consult. But I went and tried that size again and they were perfect. Like, it was exactly what I wanted. Still, after the surgery, very, very happy with the size. So it's something where you have to go and try. Obviously, you can go to the surgeon and try on loads of different sizes and see what you feel is most comfortable. But you've also got to trust that your surgeon knows what's best. And if he's got amazing, amazing results with his clients, then why would you all of a sudden have, you know, the wrong size after the surgery? It doesn't make sense. So I think the more you research into it and the more you take action upon it, the less your anxiety will be present, because anxiety is really just fear of the unknown. So go and find out some more about it. How long have you wanted to have the surgery? I think I was completely naive to how much loose skin I had on my midsection. Well, I definitely was. After the surgery, I realized how naive I was, because I never realized that my midsection could look this tight. I never realized I could see my abs, which after the surgery directly I could see the ab muscle and my stomach was completely flush, and I'd never seen that before. Once everything does settle, I will definitely show you some more pictures and photos and vlogs. With the kind of aspect of the tummy tuck, I knew after I'd competed in 2021 as a bikini athlete, I got super, super lean, I got shredded, and my stomach was just like droopy tissue paper. I was like, this is skin that needs to be removed. No matter how lean I've got, you know, it's still there. In all honesty, like, in the last couple of years, I did definitely think to myself, like, I think I've got loose skin on my stomach. I'm pretty sure I've got loose skin. Like, I've done cuts before and I've dieted before in the past, and I really can't get rid of this. And people said to me, you know, like, I just think you need to get a bit leaner. I think you need to get a bit leaner. Like, a couple of people said that to me, and it really stuck with me. And it always made me feel like I hadn't lost enough body fat. So even through competing and getting freaking shredded for a bikini show, shock horror, it was still there. And I was like, right, I was right this whole time. Like, I know that I've needed surgery. So realistically, if I didn't have my doubts, I probably would have wanted the surgery a good couple of years ago. More than that, probably 3-4 years ago. But because of obviously me kind of like pursuing fat loss and seeing whether that would do the trick, I think I only really discovered last year that I wanted the tummy tuck surgery. And as for the breast augmentation, it's definitely something that I've thought about, particularly over the past kind of like couple of years, from the weight loss and the weight gain, and then feeling like my breasts were quite droopy. But when I decided I'm going to get the tummy tuck, I was like, I'm just going to get the breast augmentation done too, because, you know, it's in my head. And if it's in my head, I'm thinking about it for a reason. And if it's going to make me feel more confident, then why not? And it definitely has done. How much was the surgery? And how much did the surgery cost? So a very, very anticipated question. The surgery, as I said, I got done in Dubai. So it was by no means cheap. And it's easily one of the biggest investments that I've ever made in my life. So The surgery price in Dubai was 68,250 dirhams. And in pounds, that is 15,400 pounds. So thereabouts 15,000 pounds for the tummy tuck and also the breast augmentation. Pretty much kind of like 10,000 for the tummy tuck, as it's a much more complex and advanced kind of surgery as opposed to a very common and routinely done less invasive breast augmentation, which is thereabouts 5,000 pounds. And then if we're looking at that in terms of US dollars, that is about 18,600 US dollars. So a very, very big investment, one that I chose to make. It does not have to be this expensive. It depends on where you get your surgery done, how you pay for it, you know, what surgeon you go for. And I just decided that ultimately someone's going to resculpt and shape my body. I'm going to make sure that it's the damn best that I possibly can afford. And therefore that is the price of the surgery. So very, very big investment, but very, very worth it. And also there's another question, which is like, how much should I be looking to spend on a surgeon? And it's a tough question. It really is a tough question because it all comes down to ultimately like, what can you realistically afford, but also what quality are you going to go for? Are you going to have it done at home? Are you going to go elsewhere for it? It's a very, very difficult question, and it varies, you know, around the world. How much you pay in Turkey versus how much you pay in Dubai versus how much you pay in the UK or the US, in Miami, you know, all of that varies. So it's a real tricky thing to kind of like understand. But with many things, like often the more that you research into it, the more that you expect to pay for a very, very well-experienced person tends to be the best quality that you get in a more advanced medical place. So it's just something where, in my perspective, I've heard so many horror stories about going about things in more of a cost-effective, cheap manner than just, you know, spending the time saving and getting it done the right way, and you'll feel so safe and really, really like it's a much better experience rather than a stressful one, in my opinion, if you go about it the right way. Okay, last couple of questions. So would I have done anything differently in the process of having the surgery? I think I worried about it too much. Like I genuinely thought it was going to be so much worse than it was, but actually I would have rather been over-prepared than under-prepared. So probably not. I did a lot of work in terms of like research, speaking to others, speaking to my therapist to prepare me from a mindset perspective, taking time off work, and it was all very worth it because it was such a smooth journey. So I don't think I would have done anything differently, no. And finally, very, very interesting question. Would you have any other plastic surgery? So any other surgery in the future? Something I've thought about for quite a while, along with the kind of tummy tuck surgery that I knew that I definitely wanted, was from having been bigger in the past and definitely weighing like 50, 60 pounds more and gaining weight very rapidly. I also gained a lot of weight around my thighs, particularly my inner thighs. And I have been left with loose skin at the very top, something that's not super visible unless I am particularly in like an improvement season phase where I'm at a heavier body weight, but it is something that is very much so present. It does affect things like, you know, wearing short shorts or wearing a dress. In the summer, sometimes I get quite a lot of chafe, which is uncomfortable. And along with that, sometimes my skin can get caught when I'm training in the gym. It sounds like quite strange, but if I'll go onto a leg extension or a hamstring curl, sometimes my skin can get pulled and I kind of have to like adjust how my legs are, and it can pull on the inner of my thighs. So I have thought about a thigh lift at the very top of my thighs, just from more so a comfort perspective. I could live with it visually, but more so from a comfort perspective. But that's very much so like a would be nice rather than something that's, you know, going to be completely life-changing for me as the tummy tuck and the breast augmentation has been. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this Q&A. Lots of kind of like vulnerable things here, but I really appreciate your support as ever. Please drop this video a like if you found it helpful. Please let me know if there are any other questions you'd like me to answer in the next Q&A, and subscribe if you haven't already. I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for your questions. Much love.